Go ahead and get started. Great. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our fourth Family Education Night of the 2022-2023 school year. My name is Kristen Parson, and I am the IEP liaison for Northstar's Career Center. I'd also like to introduce Holly Peel, who is the director of the Career Center. At the Career Center, we work with juniors, seniors, and young adults with disabilities to help them build career readiness skills they can use to transition out of secondary education and enter the workforce. You can learn more about the different fields that we offer programming in on the Career Center tab of Northstar's main website, and I'll be sure to post that shortly, or you can reach out to us directly via email, and I will put Holly and I's contact information in the chat in just a minute as well. We are also very happy to have two guest speakers with us this evening who have given a great deal of their time and expertise to Northstar. Our first guest is Kelly McGee. Kelly joins us from the Courage to Succeed program at UMFS's Charterhouse School, where she has been supporting young adults with disabilities since 2013. In this program, and with her and her team's support, many Northstar alumni have been able to find measurable post-secondary success. Our second speaker that we have with us tonight is Paula Buckley. Paula has been working with the nonprofit organization GRASP since 2008. There, she works hard to help students and their families navigate the financial aid process and connect them with scholarship opportunities as well. Paula has worked with our students and families for 14 years. She is available to meet one-on-one with Northstar families to help them obtain financial aid for post-secondary programs. Please keep that in mind as she speaks and let us know if you need help getting connected with her. We also appreciate the support that GRASP provides to Northstar in the form of a scholarship competition that is awarded to one graduating senior each year. As you can see, GRASP is very much committed to their mission. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, and the rest of us are going to turn off our cameras. Please remember that you're welcome to chat any questions that you have, and that there will also be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of both of tonight's presentations.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Let's see. Okay, as Kristen mentioned, I am Kelly McGee, and I am the program supervisor for the Courage to Succeed program at UMFS. We are a college and transition support program for students with neurological differences. Majority of our students have an autism diagnosis. However, that's not the criteria for our program. Many learning disabilities, mental health supports that you may need, anything to help you navigate into this next transition age after high school, we help with. So we're a very individualized program. We offer these 4 areas of supports, which are academic supports, psychosocial supports, independent living supports, and career and job supports. And I'm going to go into each of these in a little more detail. So for academic supports, I'm happy to say that we are now supporting at both Reynolds Community College on the Parham Road campus and at Bright Point Community College on the Midlothian campus. Formerly, we were just at Reynolds, but Bright Point, now we have a couple of students there, and that's formerly John Tyler Community College. We help with course advising and registration for our students. We also get them connected with the accommodations office, ensuring that they are receiving their accommodations while they're on campus with their classrooms, and also just accommodations on campus too. We meet with the students for a weekly academic planning meeting. So this meeting would be one-on-one with myself, meeting to talk about the different I think I'm actually going to go into this more detail, but we're going to, we meet about their class schedule, about what they're doing for their weekly assignments, breaking down larger assignments, planning for larger assignments, just making sure that they're staying on top of their classwork and their outside homework as well. We have ongoing contact with the college instructors. So whenever a student emails a professor, we're CC'd on those emails to stay in the loop. If a student's struggling in a class, many times the professors will actually reach out to us with the student CC'd on the email and saying, hey, can we have a meeting and talk about what's going on in the class before the student just immediately withdraws or drops from the class. We have tutoring services through our agency, UMFS. We have wonderful volunteers, but we also connect them with the tutoring services on the college campuses as well. We have designated study hall times on our Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're at the UMFS campus where we're doing our groups. During those times, we also have designated study hall times. We have organizational study skills training, so we work with the students to build these skills. So hopefully we can wean off our services a little bit and help them build these skills. In addition to the independent living supports, we help the students with self-advocacy. So in the beginning, they may not have many of these self-advocacy skills and are leaning on us a lot. And we help build those skills, hopefully by either walking with them to meetings with the professors, talking with them and supporting them, being a second set of ears. And then hopefully that they're going to build those skills enough that they'll be able to reach out to the professors or the college by themselves. If not, we'll be there as much as we need to be. I also facilitate a weekly independent living skills group. So this independent living skills group is on Tuesdays, because on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're at our UMFS campus. We do things like household maintenance, finances, career readiness, anything that you can think of that helps build those independent living skills. We do take it, we take recommendations from our students. Maybe there's something that they want to learn how to do. A few weeks ago, we talked about laundry and, sorting laundry and how to do different skills like that around the house too. We do career exploration and planning. So we do some assessments with the students to find out what they are really interested in and then plan for that. So maybe connecting them with internships or building those skills in the classroom and make sure that they're taking their correct classes to stay on that track too. And then we also have a summer internship program where we connect the students with internships in the Richmond community based on their career interest. And we do that. Most of the students participate in that in lieu of classes during the summer. We also offer psychosocial supports. So we have a MSW therapist for our program. Her name is Emma, and she does a lot of this programming with our students. So she facilitates a social skills group weekly. And in these groups, it's more of a practice because a lot of our students have already had social skills groups throughout their whole academic career, and they're like, okay, I know the skills, but now it's time to practice them. So whether it's us practicing them in a popcorn topic or practicing one-on-one interviews, things like that, we really like to put those into practice with them. We also have a peer support group. This is student-led, where Emma and I are there to help kind of navigate the conversation, but it's their group where they talk about whatever's going on in their life and support one another. Many of our students, are living the life of going to college and having a neurological difference. So trying to navigate that and support one another in that is really important. The students meet with Emma for a weekly counseling session, about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on their need. And they can talk about anything from maybe some mental health supports or just navigating social life on the college campus. Whatever their need is at that time, they can use that time to whatever fits what their life is at that time. We do have a mindfulness group that we do bi-weekly. We rotate that with our current events group. Our mindfulness group is where the students are learning different techniques and coping skills to live in the here and now, rather than being anxious about the past or the future, learning about their brains and how they can use these techniques in their day-to-day life. I mentioned the current events group. We try to stay away from politics, but we do want to keep our students in the loop of what's going on in the world around them. So this might be talking about some new technology that's coming out, or science things, or anything that's going on in the world, but nothing too controversial, because we don't want it to become a debate, but more of a informative group. We do have a healthy relationships group that we have weekly, and this is any kind of relationships. So we talk about navigating sibling relationships, parents, friends, dating relationships, any kind of relationship that you would be encountering at this age. And then finally, for our psychosocial supports, we help our students navigate campus clubs and activities. So I'll talk about clubs and activities a little bit later, but basically if a student is interested in a club or activity on their college campus, if they want us to go with them to it the first time, we can certainly do that, or help them just get connected and find out about the activities on campus so that they can be part of the college community. A little bit more about our summer internship program. So like I mentioned, our students usually participate in this instead of classes during the summer. Sometimes a student will take 1 or 2 classes in addition to the summer internship program, but most of them just do internship or classes. This is an internship or a paid job opportunity. Many of our students recently have opted to just have a part-time job so they can make some money. They really want to have that first job with our supports, so they do that instead of the internship. But our internships are based on their career goals. So if many of our students are in the IT field, and so we've matched with some community partners, and maybe they're designing web pages or working for it's over my head, but coding and stuff like that in the IT world. But these are some of our partners that we've worked with in the past. But this is a very, very small list because I've been with the program for 9-10 years, and we've been doing this every summer. So we have a very large list of internship connections in the Richmond community. So why is it important that we connect our students with internships and jobs for the work experience? So many of our students are taking college classes. Most of our students are taking college classes in a field that they're interested in. But book knowledge is one thing, but being able to apply it is really important if they want to get that job afterwards. So applying that knowledge from the classroom into the working world. We also, if they're working for a part-time job and wanting to make money, we want to use those transferable skills to be on their resume and to apply later on in life too. So those soft skills versus hard skills. So if they're in the computer world, maybe they're going to use those hard skills, but those soft skills of communication, teamwork, just that workplace, etiquette and things like that, working on those transferable skills to be able to apply it for future jobs. And then also those workplace social skills. Many of our students this is their first job or this is their first internship. So they don't really know what it's like to be in a workplace. So working on those, but with our supports. So Emma and I serve as job coaches during the summer, and we're there to meet with the student and their supervisor to talk about how things are going, whether it be those hard skills, how they're doing on the job, but also how they're navigating this new workplace for themselves. So on the flip side of this is what our major part of our program is college supports. So why would you want our students to go to college? Because a lot of students want to build that independence. Lived at home and probably still will live at home if you go to a community college, but they've had a lot of supports while in high school, but this builds more independence. They get to learn more about who they are and what they want to do, exploring different college classes and learning about what areas of interest they're really interested in to possibly pursue as a college or a career afterwards. This also creates numerous opportunities to socialize. They're going to meet different people in different areas of their life. In this area of life where they have somebody that's interested in the same topics, possibly, they're learning meeting some new friends that are in their college degree. They would have similar interests. So it gives lots of opportunities for these students to socialize with one another. College also may be a little different. So there are things to look out for. So they may not be used to this independence. They may have had a lot of structure and a lot of, I don't want to use the word handholding, but high school was probably a lot more lenient and on the students than it is in college. So they're not used to this independence and not used to having higher expectation put on them when they're in college. I mentioned the structure piece. College, they're going to make their own schedules. They're going to possibly have breaks in between classes. So it's not going to be the structured go to math class, then go to English class, then go to history. They're going to have those built-in breaks and figure out what to do with those times. Also, as we know, coursework is a lot harder in college. You're going to have the expectation of writing longer papers, doing homework assignments on their own outside of the time of the class time as well. So there are challenges that may be presented with these difficulties. So with our students, many of them have some difficulty socializing. So maybe they need assistance with socializing, just putting them in a new classroom and saying, all right, go meet friends. That may not be something that some of our students are interested in, or maybe they are interested in it, but they just don't know how to navigate that. Difficulty with self-advocacy, we spoke about this earlier. So setting up a structure for them and building these skills with them for them to learn how to advocate for themselves. I talked about earlier the independence, but also the autonomy of college. This is a time that things you're going to take it on your own and do it on your own, which could also present a challenge. And there might be an increased anxiety and difficulty to responding to it. In a new setting, a new classroom, new coursework could present lots of different feelings for many people. So I'm saying all of this to say that transitioning from high school to college, yes, there are a lot of life changes, but this is an exciting change in life. So let's talk about some strategies to make it a more smooth and successful transition. So part of college, as we spoke about, are those unstructured times. So learning how to effectively manage your time with a college schedule. The good thing about college is you get to pick your own schedule. So sitting down with us and figuring out, all right, how many classes are you wanting to take? And after that, figuring out what are we going to do with these break times? What are we going to do with when am I going to be able to do my schoolwork? When am I going to be able to socialize? So figuring out what works for you. And here's an example of a schedule for a student. So maybe they take classes, a history class from 11:20 to 12:45 on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then they go immediately into English from 1 o'clock to 2:25. That means that they have their mornings and their afternoons open. But that also means we could use those times to complete some of the schoolwork so they're not doing it all on Tuesday, Thursday, and Fridays, but they can use that time while they're at the college campus. While I have this calendar here, I want to explain it a little bit better, the way that our programming works. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, that's when we recommend our students take classes because we are on campus with the students. We don't go to class with them, but we're there for social and academic supports. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's when we're at our UMFS campus doing our Courage to Succeed groups, like social skills, independent living skills, mindfulness, and healthy relationships. So our program structure is Monday through Friday. Switching back to the effective managing time with a college schedule, we encourage our students to establish a daily schedule for themselves, whether it be with a Google Calendar, their Canvas calendar, which is the platform that the community colleges use to put those classwork on, or maybe they're using their calendar on their phone, whatever works for them. They may have to try a few first to see what works best for them before actually establishing the one that's going to be the one that they use all the time. It's always important to prioritize your most important tasks first and be proactive with your supports. So this is just a picture of Canvas, and it shows that this person has completed these assignments that were all due on Sunday, and then they have something coming up on Tuesday. One thing I do like about Canvas is that most of the time it marks out when you submitted an assignment, which is helpful. Speaking of the prioritizing most important tasks. As we know, in college, some assignments are worth more points than others. So maybe your tests and your quizzes are going to be worth 100 points and your daily assignments are worth 10. So making sure that you're studying and being prepared for those larger assignments. Not saying that the other assignments aren't important, because they do add up, but prioritizing and making sure that those are the ones that you're really focusing on. Also, prioritizing your upcoming deadlines. This is something that I help with the students when they meet with me. Maybe they have a large paper that's due in 2 weeks. We're going to set mini deadlines. All right, let's do our outline on Tuesday. And then once we look at that, let's start writing our first paragraph that's due Friday, just breaking up that larger assignment into smaller assignments so that it's more manageable. Being proactive with your supports. So of course, we would love it if you would be a part of Courage to Succeed program, but that would be making sure that you're leaning on us when needed and verbalizing to us when something's going on. I am many things, but one thing I am not is a mind reader, so I can't read when something's going wrong. So we really encourage our students to vocalize with us what their need is, if they don't necessarily know what that need is, but at least tell us something's going on so we can support them. Don't wait until there's a problem to meet up with a tutor, professor, or advisor. Always try to be proactive. That's in the best case scenario. Hopefully you'd be able to do that. But we are there for support if we need to make those connections. As I mentioned, there's free tutoring at most colleges. So using those supports, we will help you connect with those as well. And we do have those through our agency, UMFS, in addition to the tutoring at the college. Also, connecting with the Office of Student Accommodations. We encourage the students to connect with them sooner than later. Some of our students put them in their accommodations in place and then maybe not necessarily use them throughout the whole semester, but it's better to have them put in place than to not have them put in place and then have to backtrack and reach out to them later. It just is a longer process. So applying for accommodations, this is going to be different across colleges, but the two colleges that we work with, Brightpoint and Reynolds, new students should contact the Office of Student Accommodations, which is the name of the office at Reynolds, and the Student Accessibility Service, which is the name at Brightpoint, at least 3 weeks prior to the semester. The sooner the better. I say 3 weeks. That's kind of worst case scenario, but they would love to hear from you, from now until early summer too. That way that they can get everything rolling and put in place before the semester starts. So the way you do this is you go onto the Reynolds or Brightpoint website, and under the student services, there's a link for connecting with the accommodations office or the student accessibility services. After you filled out their request, they will reach out to you for an intake meeting. And then they'll take it from there, where they'll tell you what appropriate documentation that they need to have the accommodations put in place. And we certainly can help with this process as well. After the first semester, returning students, there's no need to reapply for accommodations, but you will have to go onto their website and request them for each semester, which actually is more of a streamlined service than it was before, where we used to have to email the accommodations office. They would send you the form, then you'd have to send them to the professors. That's no longer. So you basically just push a button on their website now, which is so much easier. But yes, making sure that you do this sooner than later. Another important part is communicating with professors. As I mentioned earlier, our students sign a FERPA is the name of the form that they have to fill out for the law, but they sign a form at the beginning of the semester saying that Emma and myself can be a part of their communication with the college. And with that, we're able to be carbon copied, CC'd on all the emails and in the loop, so that they're able to make sure that we know what's going on with the students and we're able to help and support the best way that we can. We also encourage the students to utilize office hours. So Professors love to see students during office hours. Believe it or not, they wouldn't be in this career field if they didn't love to see students and want to support them. Many occasions I've had my students be like, no, they don't want me to be there and they don't want to help. And then they'll go and we'll help them get there. And then they're like, oh, they really did want to help. They sat down with me and did a whole lab with me when I missed class that day. So using those office hours is really important, and it shows that your professors that you care and want to do well in the class. You could also communicate with your professors via Canvas. So the platform that they use, there's an inbox feature and you can email kind of back and forth with the professor. We work on professional email communication with our students. So this is setting them up for the future, but also many of our professors expect professional email communication. So none of the text lingo and things like that, just, I'll show you in a second of, in the syllabus, one of the professors had a structure of how the email communication should go. Find out from your professor what their communication preference is, or your own preference for communication. So maybe you prefer to write out your emails than go into office hours. Whatever works best for you and works best for your professor, work together to make sure that works. Disclosure of your disability. I'm going to talk about this in a few slides ahead. But basically, you don't have to disclose your disability to your professors, but you need to at least communicate with the Office of Student Accommodations so that they have the proper paperwork to get your accommodations, and then just let your professor know that this is how you work best in the classroom. At the beginning of each semester, we have a template for professor advocacy letter that we have the students send to each of their professors, letting them know their participation with the Courage to Succeed program. That way, the professors know that the students are receiving accommodations, and also has our contact information on this letter and kind of an idea of what our program is about, so that they know how to work with our student best and how to get in touch with us. Like I mentioned, this was in an English professor's syllabus. This shows his expectation of how emails should be sent. It's saying, an appropriate citation, your first and last name, the course and section number, all these things that they expect in the email so that they can build those skills on having a professional email sent. Some advantages and disadvantages of disclosure. Just basically, ultimately, it's your decision on what, if anything, that you want to disclose to the college about your disability. Just know that if you don't disclose at all, then you will not be able to receive accommodations. But as I mentioned, communicating with the accommodations office, they would know your disability, but when your accommodations letter are sent to your professors, it doesn't state your disability. It just states what supports that you will need to be successful. So you don't have to tell your professor specifically what your disability is in order to get accommodations in their class. So you can advocate your needs without stating your disability. Another part of being in college is getting involved with student life. So there's actually an Office of Student Life on both the Bright Point and Reynolds campuses. And advantages of these, they have field trips, clubs and organizations, service projects, social events, intramural sports, and educational events. So lots of different events to get involved and to meet new people and just be a part of the campus is wonderful. This is just an example of both the Bright Point and the Reynolds student life pages. As you can see, there's many different groups that they could be a part of, anything from anime club to a history club, is talking about their gym that they have on campus, but great to check out to see how you can get involved in the clubs and organizations on each of the campuses. And just throw this back in there again, and we can certainly help with navigating that as well. Another perk of college is communicating with fellow students. So look for people that are in a similar life stage. Many of these students, whether they're fresh out of high school or older adults that are returning to college, y'all have about the same goals. You're going to college because you want to either change your career or get a career. So you have a similar life stage or a similar interest in being there. This is a wonderful time to meet new people. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to be in classes with people that have similar interests if it's in your career or your degree program. But also you might have meet somebody that is in an English 101 class that is fresh into college. And so you might have some similar interests with them as well. There's different areas on campus where people are more social. So you might see somebody in the dining hall or at Bright Point. They have this wonderful grass area that's a lawn where you often see kids out there. I say kids, young adults out there kicking soccer balls around and socializing. So you'll see where there's different areas on campus that you'll see people socializing and getting to know one another. Just know it takes time. So be patient. That, you know, it's fun to meet new people, but it's not going to be something that happens immediately. That's the end of my presentation about the Courage to Succeed program. And I know that we're going to take questions, I believe, at the end. But here's my information as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time and listening to my presentation.
Thanks, Kelly. And if anyone does have any questions that they feel comfortable chatting to Kelly, you can go ahead and do so. And we can take a couple of those now, but we will have the opportunity to answer more specific, maybe personal questions after we finish the recording.
See anyone yet, so I will be on the lookout for them, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. And so now it's time for us to transition to speaking with Paula Buckley. Again, Paula Buckley is here representing GRASP, the Greater Richmond Area Scholarship Program. She is a longtime supporter of Northstar students and families and is here to give us some general guidance about pursuing financial aid for post-secondary programs. Also, as a reminder, if you are joining us from Northstar, Paula meets with Northstar families every year. She meets with the seniors regularly. If you are a family who would like to set up a meeting with her, you can do that through your IEP liaison, or you can reach out directly to Kristen or me, and we will get you connected. I believe she will also be sharing her direct contact information. So she's been an invaluable resource for us. So Paula, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And you're still muted.
Sorry. Okay, where did it go here? Outside here. Let me just, I did it before. Here we go. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to talk to you a little bit about the post-secondary financial aid path for students pursuing, some kind of training or education beyond high school. As mentioned, I work for an organization called GRASP, and we work with students, whether they're continuing on to work for a workforce credential, go to community college for an associate's degree, or to transfer to a four-year college, or go straight to a four-year college. We're a nonprofit organization, and we are in actually over 100 schools in Virginia now. The majority, basically, they're all public schools. Northstar is about the only private school that we work with, but it's been, with us for 14 years or whatever. But basically, we work with students on the financial aid process from beginning to end. In the big schools, we typically have the advisor there one day a week. For 5 hours a day. They introduce GRASP to like the English classes or government classes, and then people can make appointments beyond that. At Northstar, I'm able to, work directly with the teachers there or whatever, and assist students as needed. And at the schools that have a GRASP advisor, as was mentioned, we have some scholarship opportunities through GRASP, but again, those you have to be part of our specific GRASP program. However, I'll share our website, at the end, and we do have other scholarship resources that other people, can access if they don't have GRASP specifically in their school. So we like to consider ourselves, a family. We have, the students, we have the parents, we have the advisors, donors, the school districts, our board of directors, and we feel that once we connect with a student, we're ready to stay with them throughout their next educational pursuits, as long as they decide they want to stay connected, keep connected to us, because we just want to see them succeed and get to the end of whatever it is they're trying to pursue. So as I mentioned, our advisors are typically in the high schools, and we typically in big schools, we work through the counseling offices, and we assist with the financial aid process, which is, the beginning part is the FAFSA, making sure you get that done, helping people understand award letters, helping them, with how to look and find scholarships and that type of thing. We also are knowledgeable, or will help find out if we don't know something specific about a specific situation. And we have a lot of little tidbits that we kind of know, that because many times people are not dealing with financial aid, throughout their day-to-day existence. Oftentimes it's not until the student is like a senior in high school. A lot of times it's like foreign, almost like a foreign language. They're like, what is this? What's that? So we're able to help kind of translate the jargon and stuff for financial aid and help people feel like it's not as daunting as it may seem. So as a result of the pandemic, we expanded beyond just in-person meetings. I mean, we used to, do emails and phone calls, but we also have text messaging capability, video conferencing. So we're able to meet with people in a variety of ways. We definitely still like the, one-on-one in person if we could do it, but we found that like the video conferencing is especially helpful for, parents who may not be able to meet in person at school during the day, to be able to set up an appointment that way. And actually, with screen sharing and that kind of thing, they can actually share the screen so we can walk through things like the FAFSA while we're, just doing a virtual meeting. So these are a few things that you can take, steps you can take now with the financial aid process. There's a website here, studentaid.gov, where they have an aid estimator for you to be able to put in like the estimate of what your income, that kind of thing is, just to see what type of financial aid the student may be eligible for. Also, colleges are now required to have net price calculators on them. So again, you could put in some, basic information about family income, that type of thing, and get an estimate for what the cost may be. And, regardless of what grade the student is now, whether they're just beginning high school or whatever, learning about the financial aid process is really important, because then it's not, it might not be quite as overwhelming when the student's a senior. But again, if the student's a senior, there are resources, and even if there's not a specific GRASP advisor in your school, when you go to our website, we have an email address for advising at grasp4va.org, and I'll put again the website on at the end, so that people can reach out that way if they're trying to get assistance. So I mentioned, in talking a little bit, the big thing that people need to do in the financial aid process is the FAFSA. And these are just some of the types of financial aid forms that students will or may encounter. The FAFSA is the main one that colleges and schools use to determine what financial aid a student may be eligible for. And when I'm talking with students, basically I say, if you don't do the FAFSA, the college will just send you the bill, because that is what they use as the basis, because they have to have some kind of basis, because there's not an unlimited number of money to be able to cover everybody for schooling. There is another new form that came out last year called the VASA, Virginia Alternative State Aid Application, and that is for students who may not be eligible to complete the FAFSA due to their citizenship status. Another one is the CSS Profile. Some of the colleges in Virginia that require that are like William & Mary, UVA, University of Richmond. And this gets into more detail about the family's financial situation. And you can access that at the SAT College Board website. If you go into that, you could just search under CSS Profile. And that one, they do charge a fee, but depending on your income, you may not be charged the fee. So it basically, it works you through the whole, formula of their profile. And then at the end, it determines whether or not you do have to pay or whether you're eligible to have it done free. And then, college scholarship applications are another type of form that the student will encounter if they're trying to get financial aid for college. These are some steps that we offer for financial aid success. We can't emphasize enough to just scour college websites. They're all different. They all present information in their own kind of unique way. But things like, scholarships, they may have their own unique scholarships that you may find by researching their website. Priority filing dates for financial aid, they will have a priority filing date for completing the FAFSA. And that date is generally, many schools, it's around between like January, February timeframe. But what we hear from financial aid professionals at colleges is that the earlier the better, because even if you're eligible for certain federal financial aid, the school may also have their own institutional aid. And the earlier you file your FAFSA, depending on your FAFSA result, the better your chance would be if you've gotten it filed earlier rather than later. So we just say earlier is best. We recommend to file, the FAFSA or the VASA or the CSS Profile on time, regardless of your perceived financial need. Sometimes certain scholarships may require you to do the FAFSA, even if you, may not necessarily think you would receive a lot. So it can't hurt to do it. The FAFSA itself is free. As I said, the CSS Profile, you might have to pay the fee on that one. But, if nothing else, the student is eligible for federal student loans. And in some cases, that's money that may be needed to help pay for the cost of the schooling. We always, recommend to not get emotionally hooked on one school if your finances matter. In some cases, schools may have an endowment fund, private schools, especially, if they have, additional funds to be able to award to students, and not necessarily, those with the lowest income. But by the same token, if you get emotionally hooked on a school and the financial situation is something that's a key consideration in your decision, we recommend that you, remain a little bit flexible in that regard. Maximize your high school's resources, depending on what kind of counseling services you have at the school, and also let folks know about your special circumstances, because there may be certain situations that may have opportunities, related to financial aid. If you have a GRASP advisor at your school, we highly encourage you to meet with one. And then also pay attention to emails and college assigned student accounts. We can't emphasize that enough for students. If they're applying to schools, if they get accepted, they'll get a student account and a student email, and you need to, read that, because that is how colleges communicate. And you don't want to miss deadlines of things that you need to get submitted. And also, if you don't know or understand what it means, that's even more important to ask someone, because, between teachers, counselors, you have a GRASP advisor, people are willing to help, but they don't know if you don't let them know that you're not sure of what something means. This opportunities book, has an online version that the link is there, but also it provides lots of information. It's put out by ECMC. You can see there at the bottom in the picture. And every year they update it with the latest on financial aid information, but it's just got a wealth of financial aid information, especially about the FAFSA. So I highly encourage you to, to check that out, because sometimes you may hear, some kind of information and you're like, what were they talking about? And you could probably find your answer in this book, because it really does cover, pretty much from A to Z about the financial aid process. Okay, so when we say why complete the FAFSA, this is this slide may not look the most exciting, but this tells you why or what the schools do with the results of your FAFSA to then determine the student's financial need. So if you look at a college website, every college has what's called the cost of attendance. And if it's the 5 basic things that they put into that number are the tuition and fees cost, room and board, if it's a 4-year college, and also the community colleges are starting to put an amount in there because people know that even if a student's not living at the community college, there's still those costs. Then an estimate for personal expenses, an estimate for transportation, and an estimate for books. Now those last 3 that I said are estimates. The school will not bill the student for those items, but the student needs to keep in mind that those things they're going to have to pay for. Books, definitely, because you know, you can rent them, you can buy them, but they're not provided as oftentimes they are in K-12 years. The personal expenses, if it's, you know, if you're living away from home, that could be everything from soap and shampoo to if you go out for pizza instead of eating off of your dining plan. But you know, just kind of your spending money. And then transportation, that's typically, you know, to school and back at the end of the semester. So they don't take into account necessarily, you know, if you're commuting during the semester. So that's the school's cost of attendance number. Now, when you do the FAFSA, it has a formula in there. It takes into account things like family size, family income, numerous other factors. And the result at the end is called your expected family contribution number. Now that number can be as low as 0, or it can be anything above that. For comparison purposes, I say that a student with a 0 EFC, if during K-12, if they're in a public school and the family has filled out the free and reduced lunch paperwork and they're eligible for that, then they would have a very low or a 0 EFC. And with the EFC, if it's very low, like 0 up to like a few thousand, those students would be eligible for one of the main federal grants, which is called the federal Pell Grant, which you may have heard, you know, in the news with all of the student loan debt issues, you know, going around. But the Pell Grant is the big federal grant, but it's the lowest EFC number are the ones that are eligible for it. And if a student has a 0 EFC, they'd be eligible for the full Pell Grant, which is 6,000 some this year. This next year, it's going to be up to a little over $7,000. If a student had an EFC of 2,000 or 3,000, they would get what we call a partial Pell Grant. It would not be the full amount, but it would be some amount. And every financial aid award letter that they would receive from a college would show that same Pell Grant amount. It would not vary depending on the school. So what a school does, once a student's accepted, that the financial aid office at the school will work on what's called the financial aid award letter. And they will take the school's cost of attendance, subtract the student's EFC number, and that resulting number is the student's demonstrated financial need to go to that school. So in the example, if a student has 0 EFC, their need to go to that school is the full amount of the cost of attendance. However, we always, you know, caution students that that does not mean that the school will cover that full amount in the financial aid award package. And that's a key thing for them to understand, because, you know, it's a lot if you have to, if your need is the full amount. But that's basically the formula that schools use to determine what they're going to start with to work on a financial aid award letter for a student. And I'll get in a little further along. There'll be an example of an award letter. So as I mentioned earlier, choosing not to file the FAFSA basically means that your school's not going to consider you for financial aid. And that includes, you know, federal student loans, federal work study, which is a type of financial aid, and then, you know, free money like grants. So to complete the FAFSA, it says, you know, 5 basic steps. You know, for one, the student and a parent have to have what's called an FSA ID, just like all kinds of other things. You know, on the computer, you have to have your certain ID, and the FSA ID, it links your name, your birth date, exactly as it is on your Social Security card. So when students are putting that information in, and parent, you need to make sure it's exactly how it is reflected on your Social Security card, because it gets matched up with Social Security Administration. And if it doesn't match, then that can create a problem with the FAFSA completion. As I mentioned, you want to file as soon as you can, but schools have priority filing dates, but we encourage earlier. Earlier is better. October 1st every year is when the updated FAFSA comes out. There are a bunch of changes that are coming down supposedly for the next FAFSA coming up. And we've heard, not definitively, but, it may possibly make it by October 1st, but then it might also get slid a little bit if they don't get everything updated as it's supposed to be. But there are going to be some changes. One of the big things is that the number of questions asked is going to decrease significantly. So, just keep your ear out if you have a student that's a junior now and you a senior next year getting ready for the FAFSA. There's still a lot of things going on at federal student aid offices to get the changes, in and updated. So we are still like wondering, okay, is it really going to happen, or when's it really going to happen? But typically October 1st is the start date for the new FAFSAs. Once you complete the FAFSA, the student to their email will get what's called the student aid report. And basically that's whatever was submitted on the FAFSA, but that's kind of your proof that you've completed the FAFSA. Also, if there are any errors or glitches that need to be corrected, that will be specified in that email. So make sure once it typically takes 3 to 5 days to get processed if you've done it, online, but that will come to the student's email. Respond to any emails or requests for documentation. That specifically is like from the college financial aid offices, because they are the ones, again, that take the results of the FAFSA, work up the financial aid, package. And then if they have additional requirements that they, as some schools may require other forms, that kind of thing, you have to deal school to school. And we say, don't be afraid to call the financial aid office or talk to the folks there, because that is their job. And, the more you let them know or talk to them and ask questions, they're going to know who you are or who the student is. And, be willing to assist, especially like if you have a particular situation that's maybe unique. Don't hesitate to just call and ask them and say, hey, is there anything, or is there any other, financial aid available or whatever? Don't be afraid to ask. And again, as I said, if you have GRASP in your school, make sure you meet with them. If not, reach out through our website. As I mentioned, also the new form for qualifying non-citizen students who are not able to complete the FAFSA. This came out in January of 2021 for the first time, and it's Virginia Alternative State Aid application. So what that means is students who complete this may be eligible for some Virginia specific grants. And again, here the website is listed here, and it gives a little more detail. But it's somewhat similar in how the FAFSA works to get it completed. But again, this is for students who are not eligible to complete the FAFSA. And that website also kind of walks you through, okay, are you eligible for the FAFSA? If you're not, then you could go on here to do the FAFSA. As I also mentioned too, the CSS Profile, that's the one that gets a little more in depth into the financial aid situation of the family. The college website will also, under the financial aid page, will tell you if you have to do the CSS Profile. But as it shows here, some of the ones, as I mentioned, in Virginia are William & Mary, U of R, Washington and Lee, University of Virginia. All right, here's the example of the financial aid award letter. As I mentioned, the school will take their cost of attendance, like you see at the top, $30,000. They'd subtract this student's EFC, which is $5,000. And to that school, the student's initial need is $25,000. So the student would still have to come up with how they're going to do that first $5,000. The school is going to be working with the $25,000 number. So you see the first two lines are loans, federal subsidized and federal unsubsidized loans. When you see an award letter, they break it down by fall and spring semester. So it's basically, the total broken in half. You see there the total of those two types of loans is $5,500. That's the maximum amount that a student can be authorized their first year. Their second year, it can be $6,500, and their third and fourth years, it could be $7,500. So that's how you can see how student loan totals can increase over time. And the difference between the subsidized and the unsubsidized, the EFC will determine whether or not a student will be eligible for any of the subsidized. Some students may only see unsubsidized loan for that $5,500 amount. But if they have some subsidized and some unsubsidized, the subsidized loan amount will not accrue interest while the student is in school. The unsubsidized loan amount, that total of $2,000 you see here, as soon as the student takes some of the loan, interest starts accruing. So by the time if it's a 4-year school and you've taken your loans each time, the $2,000 by the end of 4 years is going to be higher than $2,000. The $3,500 would still be at the $3,500 level, but then interest would start accruing before the loan has to be repaid. And the repayment, there's a 6-month grace period after the student completes their schooling. And there are several different types of payment plans, but the standard basic one is 10-year. And students have to, if they accept any of the student loans, they have to do an online tutorial, which is through the same website where they do the FAFSA. And that's also where they sign what's called the master promissory note, which basically says, yes, I'm taking the loan and I will pay it back. All right, the next type of aid you see there is federal work study. This is a program wherein on the FAFSA, it asks the student, do you want to be considered for work study? We recommend that they say yes, because you accept or decline each part of the award letter. If they get work study authorized and they accept it, they have to find out from their school, how do I get one of the work study jobs? And they have to get the job, work the hours up to their dollar limit each semester. And once they hit their limit, they have to stop that semester, then they can come back the next semester. The one thing I caution students is that when you're looking at your first semester, how to cover all the costs, you can't take that money into account because you don't have it until you work and earn it. If you happen to save some of it, you could put it toward your spring semester, but your first semester in the fall, you won't have any of it until you actually start working and earn it. The student is in this example has gotten a university grant of $2,000 and a Pell Grant, a partial Pell Grant, as you can see, of $2,000. And also VGAP, it's one of the Virginia grants of $4,800. So the total amount in the financial aid package is $18,300. So as you see at the bottom, there's still what's called $6,700 of unmet need that the student and family would need to cover. And that could be covered with everything from if there's any kind of savings. Schools have what's called payment plans. One thing with the payment plan, they don't charge you interest, but you do have to set it up before the semester starts, and you designate how much you will make for each of however many payments there are per semester. So say you could do $300 per payment for 4 payments each semester, you would set it up that way. And again, each school will let you know how their payment plan works. Sometimes people may need to use outside or private loans. So that there's lots of different ways that people can work to get their costs covered. You heard just a lot of good information about the 2 community colleges that are in our immediate area here. GRASP is a huge proponent of community college system just because we, talk to students and families to try to help them minimize debt. And in Virginia, they have community college transfer programs where students can earn an associate's degree and then transfer to a 4-year degree for their bachelor's. And students who do these programs, there are Virginia grants. The Virginia Transfer Grant is one that they can apply for after they've gotten their associates. One thing about that grant, the student has to maintain a 3.0 grade point average to be eligible for that grant. So I always try to let students know that before they start the community college to make sure they keep at least a 3.0, because if they get to the semester right before they want to transfer and they have a 2.8 or 2.9, it's kind of hard to move up. But knowing that ahead of time, you can work to keep that, to try to get that transfer grant. And many Virginia colleges have guaranteed admissions agreements as well. And then also students who are at a school that has a GRASP advisor, we have what's called the Community College Pathway Scholarship, which they can use if they're planning to do community college, either for workforce credential or to transfer to a four-year college. Virginia has one, what's called junior college, which is Richard Bland College of William and Mary. And actually they're in the process of trying to become their own entity and have their own board of directors or whatever, but that I've seen recently in the news. But this is a junior college. They have dorms, so students can live there, and their tuition and fees cost is between a community college and a four-year public college. And as you can see here, the curriculum is intended to allow them to be a junior when they transfer to a four-year college to get their four-year degree. This website here, the Virginia Wizard, vawizard.org, is a good one, with a lot of resources on everything from, college searches, community college transfers, career exploration. So it's a good one to look at, just to see all the variety of things that are available for looking at post-secondary education options. When we talk about fee waivers, this is for college applications, because typically when you apply to college, you have to pay a fee to apply. If students have been eligible for a fee waiver for the SATs or ACTs, they often are receiving fee waivers for the college application. But also don't hesitate to call the admissions office and see if there's an opportunity for a fee waiver. It never hurts. We're big proponents of talking to people and getting to know them, because that's the only way that doors will open if there's an opportunity for you. I mentioned earlier about the federal student loans, and that for the federal student loans, the FAFSA is required to be able to receive those. Students don't have to have a credit, check for them. And the federal loans, they have fixed interest rates. So that's another good reason that if a loan is necessary, that's a good type of loan to have. And as I mentioned to you, repayment is typically deferred until the student leaves school. The other type of loan that's a federal loan is a PLUS loan. That's for parent if they desire to apply for it. They do have to apply and do get a credit check. The difference too with the PLUS loan for a parent, the payback, as soon as the parent starts taking any of the loan, they have to start paying back, as opposed to like the student loans, which repayment is deferred. Additional career paths that are available. Not all jobs, require an associate's or bachelor's. There's a lot of other great options, and you hear a lot more about them when you hear things like workforce credentials, things like tech or trade schools, apprenticeships, career certificate programs at community colleges, which there's a wealth of information on those. Both, in our area, Reynolds and Brightpoint. There's a program called Fast Forward, which has grant funding for certain workforce credentials, as well as G3 programs. And then students can also consider the military as another career option. This just shows pictures of some of the types of what we call workforce credential type jobs that exist now. And oftentimes, students may not realize how many opportunities are out there, and that oftentimes you can even build on different skills or trades, or you can maybe get a credential in one thing, start working for a company or whatever, and then sometimes if you want to continue your education, sometimes the companies will cover continuing your education beyond what you have. As I mentioned, these are the Fast Forward and G3 are two programs that now exist in Virginia that are funding related, whether it's grant or tuition coverage, and it's through the community college system. So that's something to ask, at the community college if you're planning to attend and looking at those, workforce type options. And then also apprenticeships for Virginia. You can find apprenticeship opportunities through the Department of Labor website. And typically with apprenticeships, you connect with a business that does do apprenticeships, and work with them to see if they have openings, if you could get into their program. And apprenticeships are where you work and learn as you're going. So you're earning money, but you're also learning on the job. And that is the end of my presentation. And I'll put my our website in, which, as I mentioned, we have the advising at GRASP for VA. I'll put that also if you have questions specifically about getting financial aid, advising assistance, and I'll put our website, which has scholarship resources under. If you go to the top line where it says students start here, we have a lot of information and things for students to look into there.
Thank you. I think every year there's just more things that are added to that list of resources. So that's phenomenal. And I really appreciate you bringing up the apprenticeship question. That's a program that has been robust and seems to be getting only more robust in Virginia. I was recently at a career fair, and one of the catches that we've run into when we've worked with evaluating this as an option for our families and for our students is that it seemed at that time that there was the onus was really on the student to find that apprenticeship slot. There is a list that's available on the website. You have to click through a few levels to get there, but it is there. I think there are about 9 listed right now. And when I went to this open house, there had to be 75 businesses there who all had apprenticeship programs. It blew my mind. I was very excited. So I would advise everyone to kind of keep their ear to the ground. Different career and technical programs in the area tend to have these open houses. This one was through Hanover Technical Center, but I know that Henrico does it as well, and Chesterfield does one annually. So if you live in whatever your locality is, hopefully you are signed up for notifications from that public school system. Even if your student is not attending public school there, you might get those announcements as well. If you do get one, shoot one my way, and we'll do the best we can to publicize that with all of our families, because I wish that I had realized what was available that night. I would have pushed it out to all of our families so that other people would have known to go. I had a follow-up question. Thank you for sharing the information about the workforce resources that are available through the community college system. We have an amazing workforce center through Virginia Community Colleges, and it seems to only grow more robust every year. Do you know, are there any options for folks who are graduating with an applied studies diploma through those programs, or are they still pretty universally requiring a standard diploma in order to gain entry, even for certificate programs?
I'm not completely sure, but I can give you the contact, like for the community college workforce. The thing that we found is sometimes when it comes to the workforce credentials, it's harder to get like exactly who do I talk to, how do I get the hard and fast answer to my question to connect to these things, because it seems like, oh, well, and students may not want to be the one to be like, let me ask all these people, questions, as opposed to like a lot of college websites, you can find a lot of information just by clicking around yourself. And that's what I found with the workforce things. But I can connect you with the workforce person, because I just went to a program at Reynolds.
Okay. And I think what I've found with some of those is for a person who's exiting high school, there are some really great credential programs where you don't necessarily need to be a candidate for a degree, but you do need a standard diploma to enter those credential programs. And they're phenomenal. I mean, in machining and welding and auto body, and I understand that the auto mechanic program has now moved to the Parham Road campus, and they're outdoor in a gigantic tent, and everyone is embedded in with a business, and then getting classes also there, hands-on, working on those technical skills. And you can pursue a credential, but then if later on, as you have taken a year or two to take these classes, those classes also apply to an associate's degree. You have to take a few more classes to earn that associate's degree, but that's a really beautiful option for a number of our students who aren't quite ready at the time of high school graduation to decide, do I want a college option? Do I care about a college degree, or do I want to jump into work and get that kind of technical training? The fact that you don't have to choose either or and maybe make a decision further down the road is really fantastic for a lot of our folks. So definitely, I would invite families to keep that in mind. And it's good to know that there's more resources devoted to those workforce programs. The second thing that I've seen is a lot of the shorter workforce accelerated courses seem to have more flexible entrance requirements, but they're also designed for adults who have maybe had a little bit more life experience. You know, maybe they've had their first job, their second job, their third job, and they're looking to career switch or to advance their jobs within a field. So maybe they're already working as a plumber's assistant and they need to take a couple classes so that they can move into the next level, whether it's through an apprenticeship or just get promoted in their companies. So there's a lot of resources that are out there that are some of which are a good fit for someone who's exiting high school, some of which are still available if you know, you get out in the workforce and you work for a couple of years and you're looking for some opportunities. Some more accelerated courses are available. So all good things. Let me just check the chat. I see we've got all of our resources and emails and so forth there. And I don't see any other questions. So I will just thank both of you all for coming and presenting again for us tonight. We always benefit from your expertise. So if you are watching this on recording, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out through our website. And for those of you who are attending live, we're going to go ahead and stop the recording so that you can ask some questions that will not be posted on the website here. So thank you all very much for participating and for joining. And I will wish you a good evening.